guys, I'm Aisha.
I'm Emily,
Welcome to Picked Up Parenting.
where coffee's required
Laundry is optional.
and motherhood is always worth talking about.
Someday I won't have to think twice about that.
Well, it'll be the day that I do, so.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so we have such a special episode today. Unfortunately, last month our guest her audio cut, and so we didn't get to. This was going to be our first guest speaker, and then we didn't get to utilize our first guest speaker. But, so it's like Megan's our first. My sister-in-law
Yay!
Megan is here with us today. And she's
I'm
going to be
happy to be
talking
here.
about having run a 100-mile race.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
it was
So
quite the adventure.
this is like our first interview that we're sharing with you guys. We wanted to do one episode a month where we interview just a regular mom doing something amazing that we consider amazing. And it's like anything from, maybe how you run your household is really smooth all the way up to maybe you ran 100 miles and we'd love to hear about it. So we have a lot of cool guest speakers, and this month's was my sister-in-law. So we're going to dive right in because I'm so excited. I've heard bits and pieces, but I was really hoping to get my first full experience through it on the podcast so I could hear it with fresh ears. So what led you to running 100 miles?
So this actually takes me back a couple years. One of my clients was talking about doing hard things and how that's super important in life. And I couldn't agree more. I think people need to step out of their comfort zone and do something that scares them a little bit. And so it started with me choosing a challenge a year that is something that I'm not sure I can actually accomplish or finish, something that kind of scares me a little bit. And it started with actually cold plunging because I hate cold. I hate being cold. And so I started cold plunging and my commitment was every day for a full year. So I started with 3 minutes cold plunge, and I think I worked up till my average cold plunge was 4.5 minutes. And so I was able to do that. I went I think I did 368 days or something straight is what it ended up being. And so I learned a lot from that year. And then after doing that, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Scares me for this next year. So that was I want to say 2024, I think, is when I did my cold plunging. And then 2025, I was like, I'm going to run 100 miles, do a 100-mile race. And the one that I was originally going to do, you had to qualify with a 50-mile race first. But the 50 wasn't scary to me because I was like, I can run 50 miles. And a little bit of history about me is I love weightlifting. I love strength training. That's my natural. That's where I love to be. But running, I can do it, but it's not my most favorite thing. Okay, so that's why this became my okay, can I run 100 miles? So my husband and I did a 50-mile in October of last year, and we actually DNF'd that. But that's a whole story in itself. We ran into a mama bear and her
It was dumb,
cubs.
guys. She should have
Fun.
made it. It was dumb.
Nobody knew what to do. The aid station told us we had to be at the next one by 5:30, which we were gonna totally make it. It was 2:45, and then on our way, we were 3 miles in. Sweep came, and they were like, "If we pass you, we pull you from the race." So they did, because my husband's knee was bothering him. And we got pulled from the race, and then I wrote the race director, and I'm like, somebody should know what to do with the mama bear and her cubs, and probably more communication. It was the first time they held this race.
Okay.
And I'm like, probably more communication between your sweep and your aid station crew. And then she was like, I'm so sorry. That should have never happened to you. And the worst part is we had 10 miles left. Yeah. So,
That's so close.
but anyways, and then we had to walk it out anyways. So we ended up getting the full 50, but it was
Didn't
yeah,
care.
it was wild. Anyways, so we technically DNF'd, but they ended up apologizing to us and saying that shouldn't have happened, and then they gave us a free race. So anyways, so that was kind of a wild thing. And then I was like, okay, off to I'm like, obviously we can't do the race that I wanted to qualify for because we didn't make it, we DNF'd. So let's find a different race. And my husband pulled up the Black Hills 100 and was like, let's do that. And when I read the course description, I'm like, there's like 7 water crossings. Like, no, I hate running with wet feet. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And he's like, okay. So we like looked at a couple others, and then we just kept coming back to this Black Hills 100. And I was like, you know what? It's all about doing something hard anyways. Like, what's some water crossings? You know? And so we went ahead and we signed up for it. And then that's where the training started. The training for 100 miles. Like, the 100-mile race itself was amazing and like really fun to do. The training for it, that's what you get your medal for. It's not running the 100 miles. It's like figuring out how to train, like, and because my husband's doing it with me too. So it's like, it's trying to figure out how to get the training in where for 2 people while like raising kids and like that whole thing. So that was probably the
This is
hardest
not
part.
just like running with kids. This is like, because some of you guys' runs were like, on average, when you were doing like your longer runs, what was that clocking for you
Yeah,
time-wise?
so I did 1 month where I basically ran a marathon every weekend. And so it like, and one of those days was like 34, 33, 34 miles. So, and then the other ones were like 26 or 28 or whatever.
Yeah, and that's not something you casually take kids on. Like
Yeah.
this is a
No.
commitment to make sure that your kids are somewhere else for that
And
time.
like, I couldn't have done it. So that's the other thing is like, my training wasn't perfect. Like, I wasn't on trails where I probably should have been, but I was like, I remember so when I DNF'd at the last race, this girl crossed the finish line and she was like so happy. And I just remember what she said to her family, and it like really stuck with me. And she was like, I'm so happy I got up those mornings and ran on the treadmill. And she's like, and it just stuck with me because like I think a lot of the time people think training has to be perfect or it has to be exactly what, like it has to like be exactly what the event is, and that's not true.
I feel like
Does it
this is
help?
such a
Yeah.
common like thing in motherhood in general. Like when I talk to moms about like how do you get Bible in every single day, and I'm like, I do it through my headphones. It's not going to happen if I don't wake up and put it on in my headphones. If like, how do you craft? Well, I craft. I do things I can pick up and put. I have my watercolors sitting out on the. I'm doing a watercolor project for a friend, and it's sitting out on the counter. Like as moms, if you do not just assume it's going to be touch and go and however like it fits into the pockets, you're just quite never going to. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it be physical training or book reading or hobbies. Like it's always going to be fit into the nooks and crannies of motherhood.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of my passion as a gym owner and like mom is like to make sure other moms realize that like workouts don't have to be perfect, but you do have to show up. Like you just have to show up and do it. And like at our gym, Aisha can attest to this, but at our gym, like we have a bring your kid policy. Like bring your kids. There's a back room. They kind of play with each other. And sometimes your workouts get interrupted. And
Yeah.
like, but isn't like a half workout better than like no workout at all?
And
Like, you
the
know?
consistency over the course of a week. Emily asked me the other day, I don't know what we were talking about, and I was like, I aimed in pregnancy for consistency over the week. And so after summer was over, I just wanted to make sure I had 2 workouts in a week, and it was Wednesday and Thursday night. And I was like, if I did that and I didn't work out any other time I was like, I counted it, and my pregnancy was great, and I worked out because I worked out twice a week very consistently. But like I think that we really like underplay the fact that if you just do something well once or twice a week, that's enough. And that like sometimes that's a lot. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I also think it builds momentum. Like when you are successful in those small little things, like it builds momentum so you don't give up. Like you're like, maybe I could fit a third one in.
Mm-hmm.
And like it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be what it's going to be. So that's kind of how my training was. Like that's how I went into this 100-mile training was like I knew my husband would get home from work and he would have to go out and run outside. So I was going to be childcare. I probably wasn't going to have a lot of childcare throughout the week. So I would get up and I would run on the treadmill. I would get up. So a lot of my miles was on the treadmill, and then the big miles, the 6 weeks where I had like big miles, my dad has Fridays off, and so my mom voluntold him. She was like, "Hey, do you mind if the grandkids come and hang out with you for a couple hours in the morning?" So like I would drive out on Friday mornings, and I just cleared my schedule to make sure that the kids could go hang out with my dad while I ran those long mile days.
Yeah.
And so like a big reason I was able to do my training was because my dad took the kids, so like that was huge. But yeah, so Tyler would have to get his miles outside, so I was doing a lot of miles on the treadmill, and then Fridays was my long run day. But again, it wasn't on trail, it was on gravel road. So again, not perfect, but it was what I had available. And time on your feet really matter when you're doing something like this. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. There was one weekend where Tyler's parents watched our girls and we were able to run together at Farragut on trail. That was really cool. And then we did one night run with one of our pacers at Farragut as well on trail. So the kids went over to my parents' house, we put them to bed, and then we went out for our night run. So that was kind of like the training for it. And I will say, like, thinking about if I would ever do one again, the training makes me go, I don't know.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because it is so much time and so much time away from your kids.
Yeah.
But it was something that I was like, this is kind of on my bucket list of like, I want to do this. Like, I very much live my life of like, I want to live life and experience crazy things and fun things. And so this was one of those that I was like, and I also doing this is like, I want to be an example for my daughters of like, whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish. And it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be perfect, but like just showing up and doing it, like you can do it, you know? So
Like a Nike ad. Just do it.
do it. Yeah.
Okay, so what was it like pulling together? Because you don't do these races alone. What was it like pulling together like your team and prepping? What do you need in terms of support during the race that you had to pull together?
Yeah. So some people choose to do them alone, which
Whoa, okay, that's a choice.
yeah. I mean,
That sounds rough.
it's crazy, and like more power to you if you can do that. We originally were planning on just having like our parents watch our kids and us doing it alone. So that was like the original plan. But then when I started talking about it with our gym family, I had this one lady named Tina, and she was like, "I'm coming. I'll be there. I'll crew you." And I was like, "Really?" And like it was kind of a joke because I was like, "Yeah, if anybody wants to come crew us, let us know." Like, haha, like who wants to drive 16 hours to come crew? Like, you know, so she was like, "I'll come crew you." And I was like, "For real?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'll come crew you." And I was like, "Okay." And then it was like she started that, and then somebody else was like, "Do you want to say hi?" She was like, somebody else was like, "I want to come." So like Erin Danner, one of our coaches, was like, "I want to come too, and I'll pace you." And I was like, "Oh, you'll pace me?" I'm like, "Sweet." And then Tyler's good buddy Wayne Floyd and Erin, they were like, Wayne kind of had always been like, "Well, if you do it, I'll pace you." So he probably was the first one that was like, "I'll come and pace you," but I thought that was just a joke. And then when Tina was like, "I'm coming," then Wayne was like, "Dude, I've told you all along Erin and I would show up." And then Erin Danner came, and then we have a gal who has actually paced somebody, her sister, before in 100 miles. She was like, I should come. And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." Well, then she was like, "I'm not driving. I'm gonna use some of my flight miles." So she actually flew over. So we had three people pacing us, and then Aaron and Tina that were our pit crew, along with my mom, and then like his parents too were at one of our crew, but their main job was watching our girls. So take it to the living room. Okay.
How long
I
did the
just don't
Pacers
think
run
that
with you?
that was one aspect I was like, I don't think people realize that there's like whole like groups of people that go into getting someone to run 100 miles. Like, and I'm sure that like professionals are out there and they have their like paid team or whoever's sponsoring them, but like that's a really big aspect of you having been able to succeed.
Well, and I couldn't have done it this race without them, like at all. So, like Emily, you asked how long do they run with you?
Yeah.
So we had each aid station was close to 7 miles apart, but some of those aid stations were not crew accessible. So so Melanie took the longest stint was like almost 14 miles. So she was the one that took that 14-mile stint. And then Wayne had a 11 and a half or 11-mile stint. And then there was like 8 and 7. So, but
And
that can be different.
You don't get paced until a certain time in there,
Yeah,
right?
so you have to do the first 50 by yourself.
Okay.
And then your pacers can you can pick up a pacer. So so Tyler and I stuck together pretty much for the first 50. I can kind of tell you the whole story.
Yeah, so let's get into the actual race. Like, how did you feel going into
Okay.
it, and then kick us off into what the race looked like?
So we went ahead of time and kind of did like a little family vacation before the race, but the day before, I was a ball of nerves. I was so nervous, and my husband is like the total opposite of me. He was like calm, cool, like this is gonna be fun. Like,
Like,
look at
no
how
big deal,
beautiful
Shana.
this
We
is.
run 100 miles. Not a big deal at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, but I'm just like going crazy like that. The day before, we met. So we went and picked up our shirts. We went and picked up our bibs and our pacer bibs, and then we met the crew and we drove to aid station because some aid stations are like really hard to get into, and so we just wanted to kind of like scope them out beforehand so that the crew was ready. And so we did that, and the whole time I was just so nervous. My stomach was in knots, and I just like was at the point where I'm like, I just need to start running. Like, I just need to go. So then we were camping, so we didn't sleep the greatest on an air mattress. And then we got up the next morning, got ready. We had a pretty big breakfast. The unique thing about this race is it starts at like 10 a.m. Most of them start like way earlier, but this one starts at 10. So we got a big breakfast. Everybody met at the park. And then basically we took off, and we had an eagle, a beagle, and a seagull. And so the eagle was 28 hours, the beagle was 30, and then the seagull was just to like finish. So
What was
we
the
started
time cap
running.
for this race?
Time cap was 34 hours. Yeah.
Gosh.
So we started running, and we were like feeling really good, and we were ahead of schedule, and we not too fast. Like, we didn't take off too fast. We just like had a really good pace, and we were feeling really good. So we got to that first aid station. It was starting to get pretty hot. So that was the sad part, was the couple days before it was like 65 degrees and like cool. And then that day it was like 85, 90. So
In the
we
Black Hills.
get to
That's
that first
hilarious.
aid station. Yeah, we get to that first aid station. We grab our sun shirts. We grab just like we switch out our like water bottles. And then we have liquid carbs called Telwyn that we used. And so we switched those out. That was our main source of calories. And then we had electrolyte tablets that we would take, or element that we would drink.
A quick pause here, Megan. So, background, Megan had to like prep all of her and Tyler's stuff before.
Food.
Like, as in bagging it up, making sure they had everything for each aid station. So as they went, they weren't carrying too much, or like just so many aspects of like.
I made a binder.
Yeah.
For
That's
my
smart.
crew. I made a binder for my crew so they knew which baggies to give us at which time. There
The
was
amount
a
of,
mistake.
Like, prep and like
Weeks
of plan. Like, Megan was planning for weeks and like adding up all the calories that needed to be done, and like making sure they had enough, like the calculating. It was so much calculating just because of the calories, and then the
Yeah.
how much electrolytes were they each going to need, and different bodies and different, like, it was just amazing. Like, she had
So,
to do so
were
much
you-
calculating and organizing.
Were you eating Any like solid foods too, or just the?
Yeah. So the tailwind was our main source of calories because drinkable liquids are
Yeah.
always easier to get down. They don't mess with your stomach quite as much as like solid foods can.
Hmm.
But I mean, so that's the other thing. My diet is usually really clean, but when you're doing an ultra, you need high calorie foods. So like that's why people are eating like gummies and like
Nerd clusters,
goldfish
man.
and
That's why I want to
yeah.
run. I will do
Yeah. So
ultra runner just to
Run
eat
for
nerd
snacks.
clusters.
yeah, so there was like lots of snacks. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I even like my husband loves Pop Tarts, and I like bought him Pop Tarts just for this race. Like, we don't have Pop Tarts usually in our house, and
Unless unless
he's
Anthony's
like,
buying them for you guys.
yes, yeah. He's like, I get Pop Tarts on this race. This is amazing.
I'll do the
You're like,
teddy
let's
bear.
do one every year.
People joke that it's like a food eating contest while you're running because
Gosh.
that's how much you're eating throughout the
Yeah.
whole race. So yeah, I had figured out all of our calories, all of our carb intake, protein. Like, you don't want a ton of protein, but you do want a little bit throughout. So I figured that out. Electrolytes, how much water, all of that. And like, obviously when it's hotter, you have to increase that a little bit so that you have to kind of play that by ear. But our first aid station we went into, it was awesome. We felt great. And then we started trying to think that first part. I even think we got into the next one ahead of schedule or right on schedule, maybe. And feeling pretty good. And then it was after that to Crooked Tree. Tyler really started not feeling good. And I realized he wasn't taking all the electrolytes that I had planned for him. And I was like, you're not taking your electrolytes. You need to like really pick that up. But when it's hot and you're working as hard as you are, like it's really hard to like force people to
Yeah.
take that stuff and that like they don't want to take it. So I just kept reminding him throughout, like, you gotta be taking your electrolytes. You got it, like those chewable tablets. You gotta make sure. But I think he was already behind on his electrolytes. I don't know how much you want me to get into detail, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it, and you can cut out whatever you need to.
We don't,
But
just so you know,
basically,
Megan, we don't cut out anything. All of this is unedited. So what you say goes up.
okay, perfect. So he described it as when he would try to pee, it was like he was peeing razor blades.
Not cool.
So he started having some like pain in that aspect. And so he was like not feeling good. And we really slowed down at that point by quite a bit. So we ended up getting to Crooked Tree, and then they like gave him some specific like electrolyte tablets to take. And I was hoping that that was going to kick in, and that was like that really long 13-mile stint before we saw crew. But we knew the next one we were going to see our girls, so that kind of like gave us like motivation to like keep pushing and keep going. And so I want to say we were almost 2 hours behind what we were hoping to be, or at least a full hour. At one point we were dropping down, so we had this giant climb, and I'm slower on climbs than Tyler's usually a lot faster at climbs. I'm a lot faster at downhill than he is, so like he's faster at uphill, I'm faster at downhill, but our pace usually averages out the same somehow. So anyways, he was like, you need to go ahead. One moment. Hey girl, sorry.
You're good.
He was like, go ahead and tell them that I need electrolytes and that I need, like, you can't keep coming in, okay? Thank you. Okay, sorry. He was like, you need to run ahead and tell him that I need ice, electrolytes, and chafe cream. And I was like, I'm not going to leave you. And he was like, no, you need to go. And he's like, we're almost there. Just go. And I was like, okay. So I like took off. And then I was like a half a mile, and I'm like, I shouldn't have left him. Oh my gosh, what if he faints? What if I left him out there and like something happens? Like, he's not doing good. Like, I started like panicking. And then I'm too far to like go back. I don't want to wait. Like, so what do? I'm like, I'll just run ahead. So I get there, and I have a video of me, and like you can tell I'm like pretty like nervous, and I'm like, Tyler's back there. I don't know. He's not doing good. This is what he needs. But he was only like 10 minutes behind me. And I just remember, so our parents were the ones that were manning that aid station with our girls. And I just remember like my mom being like, well, what are you doing? Are you leaving him? Or are you staying? Like, what did he tell you to do? And I was like, we didn't talk about it. And she was like, well, she's like, if he's not doing good, you probably shouldn't wait for him. And I was like, well, I don't want to leave him. We're doing this together. And so he finally gets there, and it's like it's like starting to get dusk, like out. And he was like, hey, I'm going to sit here for like 10 minutes. And I had probably already been there 10, just waiting. And we had planned for 7 minutes at each aid station, no more than that. So he was like, hey, I'm going to sit here for like 10. You should probably go. It's a climb, so maybe I can catch you. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And so he's like, you just go ahead and get started. So I took off and started the climb, but it's like dusk. And I was like, man, I don't want to be in the night section alone, but like, whatever, like, here we go.
What was your headspace like when you ended up having to run alone? Like, I can't imagine. I think it'd be fun to do like any run with someone else. It would be a lot to be like in the open across this 100 miles alone. Like, it would just be yourself.
So at that point, it hadn't hit me that he wasn't going to catch up to me. So I was just like waiting for him to catch up to me. And so it was dusk, and there was like some other people out on the trail. So I wasn't like too worried at that moment. But that's when everything turned. So I did the climb out, and that was like honestly the only time I saw wildlife, which was a bunny. Thank goodness, because I don't want to see a cougar. Or a bear, yeah, or a rattlesnake. So I get to the top of the ridge, and I feel these raindrops, and I'm like, yes, it's going to cool us down. And I like maybe run 2 or 3 minutes, and all of a sudden I am drenched, like full on downpour. And then it wasn't just a downpour, it was like thunder, lightning. I'm at the top of the ridge, like where they tell you don't be in a thunderstorm. Yeah, stupid. Like, you're stupid if you're there. Like, and the funniest thing is I had just read an article about like how people should never be struck by lightning anymore because we have such good like weather tracking that like if people are on top of a ridge in a thunderstorm, they just are stupid. Is pretty much what the article said. And I was like, I'm one of those struck by lightning. Yeah, so so it's like dusk. I'm at the top of the ridge. This thunderstorm, lightning storm hits. Hail, like wind blowing. I like am trying to keep my hat on my head. I like am trying to get my jacket out of my pack, but I don't know why because I was already drenched. I just don't like maybe to, like my thought I think was just to like, keep body heat in. So like I like have my coat on. I'm alone, and I see like a headlamp in front of me. I see one like way behind me. But I'm like, Tyler hasn't caught up to me yet. So I'm like so nervous, and I have this like little it's like I could message people where we were at, but they could not message me. And I messaged my mom, like, I'm stuck in a thunderstorm. I don't know what to do. And I'm just like praying. I'm praying for Tyler that he's safe. I'm praying for the other runners that they're safe. And this guy appears next to me, like comes up next to me, and he goes, oh, so that's the other thing. So at this point it was an ATV trail, and it was so slick and so muddy because of the rain. Like you were having a hard time, like you couldn't run. You had to like walk. And even walking was like, you were kind of like slipping and sliding. So this guy appears next to me, and he like hands me his trekking pole, and he says, do you want one of these so you can stay upright? And that's like something that like crossed my mind is like, why is this guy trying to give me his trekking pole? Like, that's weird. He needs them both. Like, why would he be giving me one? And I turned to him and I'm like, hey, I have some. I just can't reach him because my coat was over the top of my like poles and my bag and everything. And I'm like, could you help me get him out? And he was like, yeah. So he helps me get him out. He says nothing to me. And he like just hands me my poles and he takes off. So I stand there for a second and like fiddle with him to like get him like clicked into place and everything. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go hike up to him and thank him for the like helping me. So I like hike up to him, and I'm like, hey, thanks for helping me get my trekking poles. And he like turns to me and goes, that wasn't me. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, he must have got ahead of this guy. So then I like hiked up to the next guy, and I'm like, hey, thank you so much for helping me get my trekking poles. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't help you. And I was like, was that an angel? Did an angel like try to offer me a trekking pole? Like, I don't know. But like, I like that was kind of a cool experience. Like
That's
nobody
so cool.
ever admitted to like helping me get my trekking poles.
Wow.
But I will say also after that, like I had a lot more peace. Like this peace came over me of like, you can do this, you're fine, you're not going to be struck by lightning. Like you just the mission is to get to the next aid station. I can't. So then you had to like drop down this ATV road into the next town, and it was just again like you were going downhill now, sliding, and I fell like 8 times. The course, because it was dusk, like I took a wrong turn and I had to come back and like get back on the trail. I didn't go super far, but far enough that it was annoying. Got back on the trail. Finally got into Nemo. Our crew was waiting there. They had like mashed potatoes for us. I just wanted to change my shirt. So I changed my shirt. And then Tyler actually was like right behind me. So he comes in not too far behind me, and some gal like was, I guess, scared at the top of the ridge too. And she was like, do you want to stay with me? And so he like stayed with her, and they like came in together at that aid station. We changed out like our wet clothes, ate. I did not change out my shorts or my shoes because I'm like, the trail's just going to be muddy. I'm just going to get soaked and whatever. We couldn't pick up a pacer at this time. We still had some mileage to get. So we, the gal that he stayed with asked if she could still come with us. So we all headed out to Pilot Knob together. And that was kind of uneventful, just like slippery, messy, wet. The rain had like kind of stopped, but it was just like the aftermath of like the trail being super muddy. So we get there, and then we knew we had a climb and then a super steep descent into the turnaround. So Tyler took an energy drink at that point, and he like took off. So me and this gal were kind of like, it was single track, so she was right in front of me, and then Tyler was in front of her, and like he took off, and I like could see his headlamp, but I was like, dude, why? He didn't even talk to me, and like he's like way ahead of me. Like, what is happening?
Feeling that energy drink.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I had not had
Bull?
caffeine. I
Was
had
it
not
Red
had
Bull and gave him
caffeine.
wings?
It was a Monster, a mango. That like monster logo.
All right.
Yeah.
So when we're tired, Monster Mangoes. Got it.
Yes, monster mangoes. But he like took off, and Wayne had told us, because he was crewing that Pilot Knob station, Aaron and him, he had told us that we had to do that in 2 hours so that we had enough, like we weren't chasing cutoffs. And I was not paying attention to my like watch. So I don't know, like Tyler was way ahead. This gal was in front of me. She was going slower than I wanted to go, but like I also didn't want to be rude and be like, hey, I need to go catch my husband. But now thinking back, I probably should have. But we were also like, it was like good conversation, like throughout, kind of keeping your mind off of stuff. So she finally, I think, realized that I was a little bit faster than her. So she was like, hey, do you want to get in front of me? You're faster on the downhill. And I was like, thank you. Yeah, I want to go try to catch my husband. And then she was like, yeah. So I took off, and this is, I'm sharing all the details with you. So I'm sharing like the good, the bad, the ugly. And so this was the ugly of what happened in my brain at that point. Was I had thought Tyler was like way ahead of me, to the point that he was like probably at the aid station for like 20 minutes. And then I'm going to come in, and I'm going to have to change my shoes, change my socks. I'm going to have to pee. I'm going to have to eat. I'm going to have to do all this stuff. So he'd be then waiting for me for like another 20 minutes. And then with the cutoff, like Wayne saying that we had to make it in that certain time, and like we had to turn around and like head back, I was like, man. And so I was like nervous that I was going to make them late and possibly ruin Tyler's race. And like I said earlier, I'm not great at like climbing. I'm not super fast at climbing. I can do it, but I'm just not super fast. Tyler is really great at climbing. So as we were descending into that turnaround, which was supposed to be 52 miles, but ended up like 55 point something on my watch, I was like, this is so steep. There is no way I can do this climb and make it back to that aid station in that 2 hours. Like, I'm going to mess up my husband's race if I don't just tell them to go. And I was also probably having a little bit of a pity party, because I was like, I stayed with him when he was sick, and he like just left me with this chick I don't even know. And Like, I was like so mad. I was mad. I was mad that we were facing cutoffs or possibly facing cutoffs. I was mad that about the like race, like that I was gonna have to like send him on his way and I was just gonna have to try to do it by myself. So I get to that aid station and I look at my husband. This is the ugly. And I go, mad at you. And I'm like, I stayed with you when you were feeling good, and now I'm gonna ruin your race if you and Wayne don't go. You guys just need to go. And I'm like, I'm so fired up because it happened just how I thought. Like, Wayne came and found me and he's like, hey, we're over here. And in my head, I pictured Tyler like eating ramen, sitting in a chair, like waiting for me for like 20 minutes. And so I come up and there's Tyler sitting eating ramen, just like I had envisioned. And so I just like lit into him, and Wayne like grabs my shoulder and he goes, Megan, he just got here. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he just got here like less than 2 minutes before you. And I'm like, no, really? I made up that much time on that downhill? And he was like, yeah. And Tyler's like, you're way better at downhill than me. What are you thinking? And I'm like, wow, I sound like a total jerk. Like, I'm sorry. So I had caffeine. I had caffeine at that point. And Wayne was like, we picked up Wayne as our first pacer because we had that really steep climb. And Wayne was like, Megan, you're going to be in front and you're going to lead the crew. We know you're not as fast, but like, we're not leaving you behind. And so you're setting our pace. So it was really good for me to like do that at that point because I was like, okay, I can't go slow. I have to go fast here. So it really pushed us, and he's like, I also don't know where you got that we had to do this in 2 hours. We have more time than that. Like, we're ahead of the cutoff. You're fine. So we did it in the amount of time. It was great. And actually running at night with friends, I don't know what it would be like alone. But by that time it was like pitch black. But it was actually really fun. It was really cool. Like, we had great conversation. It kept our mind off of it. So we dropped Wayne off at that next aid station and we picked up Melanie. We had some food. I was still covered in mud from slipping and sliding down that hill. We did that next aid station. At the turnaround, I made the decision to change, Wayne actually forced me to change my shoes. I was planning on changing my socks, but keeping my shoes, and Wayne was like, nope, we're changing everything. And I'm so glad that I made that decision because Tyler chose not to. Oh. You just want to be a part of this, don't you? Yeah. You can sit right in front of me. So Tyler decided not to, and that was probably one of his biggest mistakes. He chose to wait 2 more aid stations, so another 14 miles. Basically, that he did not change. You gotta be quiet. He did not change his shoes out. So he finally changed his shoes out by then, but he had these giant blisters. And I had a blister too, but I took care of it right away, so it didn't get worse.
Yeah.
And he did not. So his feet were destroyed. I also think he didn't drink like he should have throughout the night. So like the whole peeing razor blade thing started to pick up again. And then, so Melanie got us through that portion. And then Aaron Danner was picking us up and we were going to hike out that slippery trail that we slipped down. So we were like gonna go back to that, and it had gotten to the point where every step it would just like the mud would just form around your shoe, and so it was like super heavy every step. So we get to the top of the ridge and Aaron's like, just to let you know, time check wise, like if you guys don't pick it up, you're not going to make the cutoff. And the how it works is like the cutoffs got tighter and tighter as you got closer to the finish line. And it's just their way to weed out people that are not going to like have the energy to make it all the way through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So our cutoffs got shorter and shorter. And so basically Erin was like, she said something to me. She was like, you got to pick it up. And Tyler was kind of like behind me at that point. And I remember like stopping and waiting, and he would come up and he finally looked at me and he was like, go. And I was like, I don't want to leave him. What do I do? And Erin like said to me, I want you to be able to bring your girls back here and tell them that this is where your mom finished her 100-mile race. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, I need to do that.
Thank you guys for joining us for the first part of this episode, and we hope you come back next week to hear how the race ends. There's a lot of twists and turns that are unexpected, so we can't wait to share with you. Bye!